It's 104.5 The Team. It's Big Board Sports, and Roger Weiland with you on this Wednesday morning. Jim, Roger Weiland, good morning to you.
Well, good morning to you guys. Happy Wild Card Day.
How about it? Hey, before we get to the Mets, because that is the big-time regional team of interest, or one of here, what did you make everyone criticizing Buck Showalter's decision not to go at some point to Britain? You don't get him in the game and you lose on a walk-off homer. What was your thinking there? Do you agree with all the criticism that Buck is getting this morning?
Well, I don't know if it was the 9th or the 10th inning when I tweeted out that the Orioles were saving Zach Britton either for spring training or the Arizona Fall League to face Tim Tebow. It made zero sense. I mean, you have what will be, I think, the American League Cy Young Award winner. We're talking about a guy that had a 0.54 ERA. No one in the history of baseball, not Mariano Rivera, not Trevor Hoffman, has ever done that, who's pitched 50 innings or more. This guy is the best pitcher on either side. And to end this game and go home, and he didn't pitch at all, I mean, Buck Showalter will live that down for the rest of his career. Look, I like Buck. I think he's a tremendous manager in terms of strategy and handling a pitching staff. He blew it last night.
Yeah, hey, there's really just no other way to look at that. And it's always easy the day after to second guess anybody at any sport. But I woke up this morning and I was watching last night and I was trying to think of something positive to say about what Buck Showalter was thinking, because I am a big Buck Showalter fan. I consider one of the best managers in baseball. It made no sense, Jim. Just made no sense. You've got Zach Britton there, who's arguably the best closer in baseball, certainly one up with an ERA of 0-something, and he's not in the game.
No, and look, I understood the argument, which is, look, if we score a run, we're going to win because I'm going to save them for that, whether it's the 15th or 16th inning. I understand that. And also he felt very comfortable with Michael Gibbons and Brad Brock and Darren O'Day, and I get that. But when the decision came to bring in Brian Dunsig, that was the last straw there. You can't lose with Brian Dunsig on the mound. That can't happen. So the minute you did that, no excuse that Zach Britton wasn't in instead. And to think that Zach couldn't pitch 1, 2, or even 3 innings is just an absurd thought. So it was a mistake, and he blew it, and the Orioles are home. It's simple as that.
Yep, Toronto moving on. All right, what do you think tonight? I mean, doesn't get much better, does it, than Noah Syndergaard against Madison Bumgarner in a winner-take-all at Citi Field?
Yeah, I'm pretty fortunate. This is the first game I've ever called in a postseason, and to get Syndergaard against Bumgarner, yeah, it doesn't get better than this. Madison Bumgarner, as we all know, on the road in the postseason has an ERA of 0.6. That's the lowest in baseball history. Bob Gibson was 0.97. Mariano was 1.02. That's absurd. But this is a pitcher that didn't pitch great in the second half and had an ERA closer to 4 than 3 in the second half. On the other side, you got Noah Syndergaard with a chance really to make a name for himself in this elimination game. And this is a guy that has the best stuff of any pitcher in the sport. No starter has a better fastball. No starter has a better, with more velocity, slider than he does. And so we're looking at one of the greatest postseason pitchers ever in Bumgarner going against Major League Baseball's starting pitcher that has the best stuff. I mean, mama drama at Citi Field.
So what does it come down to tonight? One mistake by one of those pitchers against a good hitter, a home run, maybe even from the Mets, Jim, who have gotten to this point, in my opinion, with a lot of unlikely heroes. I mean, certainly from the pitching staff standpoint, all their starters have been injured for the most part, but all of a sudden, Jay Bruce is starting to emerge here a little bit, Asdrubal Cabrera, Granderson. Some of these guys have maybe had some struggles this year, are at least starting to play well right now. What's the difference going to be tonight?
Well, I'll tell you, in my opinion, is number one, if the Mets can get Bumgarner out before the 9th inning, if you can expose the Giants bullpen in innings 7 and 8, then you got a chance to win. So you got to get Madison out. Now, certainly for Bumgarner personally, it's executing his pitches. If his command is on, he's going to be really tough. On the other side for Syndergaard, it's going to be if the Giants are able to get the top of the order on base and they can run, as we all know, that's the kryptonite of Syndergaard. So if the other side's going to win, Bernard Span can get on and steal second, and they can manufacture a run early or two. That would be the difference for them. I remember this about the Giants team, though. They were 14th out of 15 teams in the National League with men left on base. I mean, this is not an offensive juggernaut team. So if they're going to win, it's 2-1, it's 3-2. That's how the San Francisco Giants have to do it. But to me, to beat Syndergaard, it's the running game, and to beat the Giants, you got to see the bullpen. You got to see someone between Bumgarner and Romo to beat them.
Hey, Jim, Zach By hanging out here with Roger in studio. I have to ask you, we had Bob Nightingale on the show yesterday from the USA Today, and he came out and said he's not a fan at all of the one-game playoff. He said it doesn't seem fair. This is a relatively new concept. Where do you fall out on this?
Well, when it first came out, I was opposed to it because my point was, how do you play 162 and then you play one game and whoever's ever hot wins that game? That was my initial thought. After watching it play out, I actually love it. I actually embrace it. Why? Number one, I think winning your divisions should be the most important thing, and not settling for a wild card. The way with the old system, you could not win the division, but you know what? Who cares? Because you're going to get the same series that the winner did. So you could manipulate games at the end of the year to get ready for the postseason. I like the fact that you got to win the division, or it's only one game, win or lose. Number two, I love the fact we just fast forward to Game 7. We don't have to watch the first 6 and watch them go 3-3. Here we go, one game, winner take all. And in this particular game tonight, the two best pitchers on both teams have the refs to start this game. So we're looking at the best against the best. One game, win or go home. Got to tell you, there's nothing like it in sports. I love it, I embrace it, and I hope they continue it.
Jim Bowden with us, former MLB manager, on the call tonight, ESPN Radio. Let me ask you this, Jim. No matter who wins tonight, I don't see either of these two teams getting past the Chicago Cubs in the next round. Do you agree?
Well, look, I picked the Cubs to win the World Series in March. I picked them at the All-Star break. I'm picking them again now. Why? As you guys probably believe, like I do, this is the best team in baseball. But what's interesting is when I look over the last 25 years, it's not very often the best team in baseball ever wins the World Series. This is not the NBA or the NFL where the best team usually wins. That usually doesn't happen in baseball. We have wild card teams that win the World Series. Ask the San Francisco Giants and the Kansas City Royals. Both of them have done it in the last 5 years. So, it doesn't mean it. But on paper, yeah, I would agree with you. But that being said, baseball's all about getting hot. And, the Cubs lost 50-plus games, right? How'd they do that with the best team in baseball? That's baseball. And the Cubs lost 3 in a row at one point during the year, like every single team did. So that's the fun part about baseball. You still got to do it on the field. But in terms of matching up, if the best team wins and everyone plays for the potential, you're right. The Cubs will win that division, that playoff game.
What's the chances, Jim, of the Cubs, and I agree with you on Chicago 100%, the best team, what's the chances of a Chicago Cubs-Boston Red Sox World Series?
Well, that's what I picked. But I got to tell you, when I was doing my predictions, the Rangers and the Red Sox, it was really tough for me to navigate through who to predict. I got both of them going to the ALCS, but it was really hard to go against Texas for me because you got Hamels and Darvish as a 1-2 punch, which is in the American League, that's the best 1-2 punch that's there. And they've got a bullpen, and although the stats look like they have a bad bullpen, they really have a great bullpen as well, and it's deep, and they got different looks, sidearm guys, crossfire guys, high-velocity guys, breaking ball guys. So the pitching is really tough in a short series, what Texas brings to the table. And then you've got the storyline of, Adrian Beltre and Jonathan Lucroy and Ian Desmond and Carlos Beltran. So to me, Rangers, Red Sox, if in fact it plays out as I think it will, I think that series is going to even possibly be the best evenly matched series that we get. And I think that would be the team that could prevent the Red Sox from getting the World Series. One thing about the Red Sox, though, is they have the best lineup in the sport, period. They score more runs than anyone in the game. They've got speed. They got power. They got 3 center fielders in the outfield. And they got Mookie Betts in right. If he doesn't win the MVP, he finishes in second. My only concern about Boston is, will the bullpen hold up? Kimbrel did not pitch well in September. And then my other issue is, Porcello and Price have never pitched well in the postseason. Do we believe this is the postseason where they put it together? And that would be my question about Boston.
Jim Bowden, always a pleasure. Have a great broadcast tonight on ESPN, and can't thank you enough for a few minutes here on ESPN Radio in Albany.
Well, thanks for having me on Albany on ESPN. Thank you.
You got it. Thank you, Jim.